The continued conditioning to the public to accept the alien deception that is coming is the main topic of the news consistently. And now, in the last 24 hours, a declassified CIA document saying that aliens actually turned some soldiers in Russia to stone. This is another strange trend that we're seeing of CIA declassified documents consistently being in the news. I don't know why that's happening, but again, this most recent one, I'll read it for you guys right now, talks about an encounter with soldiers and a crashed UFO, and the entities came out and turned some of the soldiers to stone. So here we have on New York Post, declassified Cold War era CIA files detail Soviet clash with aliens who witnesses say turned soldiers to stone. So here is the document itself here. It's actually a story that is common all throughout the world. It's not just Medusa and from Greek mythology of entities turning people to stone. It's actually found all throughout the world, which we'll look into after this. And of course, if that's a real thing, there's some connection to, of course, the evil beings, which alien entities are, because what do we hear every time we hear of them? Well, they're harming human beings. Whose desire is it to harm human beings? Because he's mad that they're created in the image of God? Well, that's Satan. So obviously this is the work of Satan and his evil entities, fallen angels and demons and things like this. So here is the report. Again, you can find it on multiple news stories right now, but it says that Cosmic Revenge, first paragraph published in bold-faced. After, let's see, in 1991, the KGB Top Secret Intelligence Administration, a lot of material for that department found their way abroad, in particular to the CIA. As reported by the authoritative magazine Canadian Weekly World News, U.S. intelligence obtained a 250-page file on the attack by a UFO on a military unit in Siberia. The file contains not only many documents, photographs, and drawings, but also testimonies by actual participants in the event. One of the CIA representatives referred to this case as a horrific picture of revenge on the part of extraterrestrial creatures, a picture that makes one's blood freeze. According to the KGB materials, a quite low-flying spaceship in the shape of a saucer appeared above a military unit that was conducting routine training maneuvers. This is the same thing that we're seeing off the east coast of the United States. All the military whistleblowers that come out, every time they're doing military testing, flying their jets, doing tests with the warships, the Tic Tac appears, the weird blobs with the black cubes in it, like Ryan Graves said. It's why are they consistently following after military practices and military training? It's pretty strange. For unknown reasons, somebody unexpectedly launched a surface-to-air missile and hit the UFO. It fell to Earth not far away, and 5 short humanoids with large heads and large black eyes emerged from it. There was also that video about a month or two ago where that was released of them firing missiles at UFOs and them hitting them and then staying the same shape. I mean, why is all this continuing to come out? Obviously, it's going to play into what's coming, the deceptions in the world. It's not going away. It's becoming obviously mainstream news. It is stated in the testimonies by the 2 soldiers who remained alive that after freeing themselves from the debris, the aliens came close together and then merged into a single object that acquired a spherical shape. That object began to buzz and hiss sharply and then became brilliant white. In a few seconds, the spheres grew much bigger and exploded by flaring up with an extremely bright light. And at that very instant, 23 soldiers who had watched the phenomenon turned into stone poles. Only 2 soldiers who stood in the shade and were less exposed to the luminous explosion survived. The KGB report goes on to say that the remains of the UFOs and the petrified soldiers were transferred to a secret scientific research institution near Moscow. Specialists assume that a source of energy that is still unknown to Earthlings instantly changed the structure of the soldiers' living organisms, having transformed it into a substance whose molecular composition is no different from that of limestone. The CIA representative stated if the KGB file corresponds to reality, this is an extremely menacing case. The aliens possess such weapons and technology that go beyond all our assumptions. They can stand up for themselves if attacked. This is pretty strange in regards to so many different things. This is something where there's a lot of reports out in different testimonies of UFOs, these lights in the sky flying around different military bases, turning off nuclear weapons, nuclear capabilities. For some reason, they're following around these weapon systems. To me, it just makes me think of clearly these are evil entities of some sort. What is their role going to be? And one day there'll be such great power by evil entities in the earth that everyone in the world will just follow after them no matter what, and demand everyone who doesn't follow them to be put to death. And if they have this sort of technology, this sort of capability, then the average person who isn't convicted to follow Jesus no matter what, they'll just do anything they say, and everyone else will be beheaded, which is exactly what the book of Revelation says. When you look through history, of course, we know of Medusa, and she had the capability. She was a Gorgon in Greek mythology. They're known for their ability to turn anyone who gazes at them into stone, and are often depicted with snake hair, boar-like fangs, and scaly skin. When you look more into it, it's not just Medusa in Greek mythology. It's kind of all throughout the world, and not even all throughout the same areas. There's post-classical Europe that has it. This case in Iceland, I thought was pretty interesting because it references two giants, a man and a woman. You don't often hear about women giants in the historical references to different giant beings. They're normally men, but this had the capability it turned them to stone, bright rays of daybreak. As a result of exposure to daylight, all three were turned to stone. Same thing in Asia. So kind of all throughout the world, there's these different references to it. Also worth mentioning, this is definitely completely different, but Lot's wife, the biblical figure, when escaping Sodom and Gomorrah, she was told, and they were told not to turn back and look. And when she did, she turned into a pillar of salt. The reason that I bring up these different mythological creatures here that are doing this, or we're doing this, is because I believe it's the same thing that we're seeing here. If this story is true, and everything else points to the aliens being either fallen angels or demons or some sort of principality and power that we don't understand, according to Ephesians 6:12, there are principalities and powers, spiritual wickedness in the heavenly places, Satan, the prince of the power of the air. All these things point to the same thing that we see when we see these with aliens and UFOs. And they're evil fallen beings. And back before the flood, the reason the world was flooded was because these evil fallen beings were corrupting mankind and were really influencing humanity, teaching them sin and wickedness, and creating giants like the ones mentioned in this Icelandic thing. I think it's all connected is pretty much what I'm saying here. And if these stories are true, and again, yeah, I know this is mythology, but when you look at the islands of Oceania in the Americas, we have Asia, we have post-classical Europe, and Europe, all these people who are supposedly not talking to each other at all have stories of people turning to stone. Even here in the Philippines, I mean, this is all throughout the world. Why is that? Well, I believe it's the same thing at the same time, the sins that were taught in Sodom and Gomorrah by the fallen angels, that's why the earth had to be flooded. And it's the same thing that we're seeing with these evil entities that are the aliens that are just consistently being talked about in the news more and more. Obviously, this is playing into the world system, to the end times, into whatever narrative they're trying to push. This is not going away. For years when people talked about it, they said it was crazy. And now look, it's on every single mainstream news source, Yahoo, MSNBC, New York Post, Unilat. I mean, it's just on everything. Why is that? It's playing into wherever the world and wherever the narrative of the world is going. And of course, Bible prophecy predicts that perfectly.